first question is about Cesar Gracie's team. Cesar's got some really good fighters in the camp, but I never hear him mentioned much along like with Jackson and AKA. Well, why do you think it is that he doesn't get that kind of notoriety?
Um, who knows? Maybe I think a lot of these other teams are kind of like they become teams that people hop to, and we're kind of a team that we've just been there the whole time, and we've kind of all came up together, I guess. So the other teams kind of become like, I think Greg Jackson does a great trainer, but it kind of becomes like a trend. So it gets like in the magazines of all these young guys wanting to move there and train, and we kind of, we don't have many guys moving in. We're pretty much guys that have come up there.
So you see it more as the kind of thing that it's been a family all along rather than a trend. So
I think that's definitely one possibility.
How do you respond to fans who complain about your style when you've actually finished 8 of your last 11 fights by not going to decision?
Yeah, they probably, the guys who are playing are probably most of the guys that have seen maybe like 2 of my fights. So it's, I just don't really pay too much attention to them. I go out there and do my best, try to finish the fight and make it as exciting as possible. And sometimes unfortunately it won't work out that way. But I just go out there and do my best every fight.
A lot of those same fans, too, are the guys you hear squawking about when someone should get a title shot or not. How would you respond to people saying that your title shot in the UFC might be coming too soon?
I can say I'm not really, paying attention to them. I kind of just go out and do my thing and train my ass off. But I just think, those people, all they got to do is, go on ShareDog and just look at my record and see, how long I've been undefeated and who the guys are where I fought. And I think if they took the time to do that, they would realize that I've earned a title shot.
You've been going a long time, too.
Yeah. You got quite a good streak, about 6 years, and, some really good fighters in there. I think, and GSP is pretty much beating everyone else in the 70s as well.
And speaking of GSP, it seems to me like every time someone goes into a fight with him, they plan for the GSP they saw in the last fight, and he reinvents himself every time around. Do you expect him to reinvent himself again when you guys fight, and what would you do to anticipate that?
Yeah, of course. He's always, that's why he's such a great fighter. He's always trying to improve and get better. He doesn't, he's never satisfied with his performance. He wants to go out there and make himself better, and of course he's going to do that. And all I got to do is reinvent myself as well, try to find new things. Obviously, I have, if you watch him, he's going to do a lot of the same things, but he's going to do different things as well. So I'm watching what he does, trying to learn to counter that, and I've got to be prepared for whatever he brings.
Have you been working more on non-grappling aspects of your game to deal with what you see in him, like the jab that he just did?
Definitely, because he's very difficult to take down, and he's got very good stand-up, so I'm trying to do a lot of stand-up. But also, I don't want to neglect my grappling, because that's my bread and butter, so I don't want to cut away from that either. So so I've been pretty damn busy trying to get all the training in.
How different is fighting in the UFC versus Strikeforce once you become adjusted to all the media?
Fight to fight, so the actual fighting is not really that much different. It's just there's a lot more media and a lot more attention around the UFC.
Yeah, people make such a big deal of it. It does seem to affect people when they get there at first. Did you feel it any difference in that first fight, or did it have more to do with weight cutting?
I had a horrible first fight. It's hard to say exactly what the reasons were, but I don't think it was the pressure and stuff. But you never really do know. For whatever reason, I felt horrible out there. Just I didn't really, I never gassed that bad so fast. So it was, I tend to think it was from the weight, but who knows? I can't say exactly what happened.
If you could be any weight class naturally yourself, who would you most like to face outside the weight class you're in now?
If I could be any weight class, man, that's tough. I guess might as well go for heavyweight because the big boys are like the king of the world, and that'd be a tough call. Who would I face? There's I think it's Fedor because he's like a legend. Even though Kane's kind of the guy who smashed and became the current champ, I would look like Fedor. That'd be an awesome fight.
And if you were to make a dream matchup yourself, be the matchmaker of anybody in MMA, who would you put together in the ring to watch as a fan?
I think for any fight, let's see. What fights I want to see? Well, I want to fight GSP myself. See him fight Anderson, of course.
Yeah.
I'd love to see Fedor fight Kane. That'd be phenomenal. There's lots of good fights out there. There's a couple that come to mind.
You think Strikeforce and the UFC will ever fold into one organization down the road?
It's hard to say. UFC is definitely, it's been a trend of organizations going out of business and the UFC taking them over. But, I would like to see Strikeforce stick around, even though I prefer UFC. I think Strikeforce is a good promotion out there, and it's good to have some other options for fighters.
Last question. If you had an opportunity to be a head coach on Tough, would you take that?
Definitely. I'd take it in a heartbeat. I've always, that'd be a huge opportunity. So hopefully one day that'll